beautiful ones. Okay, let's go we'll continue on with the preface for A Course in Miracles text, and we're up to what it says, meaning what A Course in Miracles says. Okay, so we'll read a page and a half of that first, then we'll move to lesson 4, and then A Year of Forgiveness, which is Jesus' commentary on the lesson. Okay, what it says. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. This is how A Course in Miracles begins. It makes a fundamental distinction between the real and the unreal, between knowledge and perception. Knowledge is truth under one law, the law of love or God. Truth is unalterable, eternal, and unambiguous. It can be unrecognized, but it cannot be changed. It applies to everything that God created, and only what He created is real. It is beyond learning because it is beyond time and process. It has no opposite, no beginning, and no end. It merely is. The world of perception, on the other hand, is the world of time, of change, of beginnings and endings, It is based on interpretation, not on facts. It is the world of birth and death, founded on the belief in scarcity, loss, separation, and death. It is learned rather than given, selective in its perceptual emphasis, unstable in its functioning, and inaccurate in its interpretations. Excuse me, itchy eye. From knowledge and perception, respectively, two distinct thought systems arise, which are opposite in every respect. In the realm of knowledge, no thoughts exist apart from God, because God and His creations share one will. The world of perception, however, is made by the belief in opposites and separate wills, in perpetual conflict with each other and with God. What perception sees and hears appears to be real, because it permits into awareness only what conforms to the wishes of the perceiver. Let me repeat that sentence. I think it's really worth repeating. What perception sees and hears appears to be real, because it permits into awareness only what conforms to the wishes of the perceiver. This leads to a world of illusions, a world which needs constant defense precisely because it is not real. When you have been caught in the world of perception, you are caught in a dream. You cannot escape without help, because everything your senses show merely witnesses to the reality of the dream. God has provided the answer, the only way out, the true helper. It is the function of His voice, His Holy Spirit, to mediate between the two worlds. He can do this because, while on the one hand he knows the truth, on the other, he also recognizes our illusions, but without believing in them. It is the Holy Spirit's goal to help us escape from the dream world, by teaching us how to reverse our thinking and unlearn our mistakes. Forgiveness is the Holy Spirit's great learning aid in bringing this thought reversal about. However, the Course has its own definition of what forgiveness really is, just as it defines the world in its own way. The world we see merely reflects our own internal frame of reference. The dominant ideas, wishes, and emotions in our minds. Projection makes perception. And that is in the text, page 445. There's more about that. Projection makes perception. We look inside first, decide the kind of world we want to see, and then project that world outside, making it the truth as we see it. We make it true by our interpretations of what it is we are seeing. If we are using perception to justify our mistakes, our anger, our impulses to attack, our lack of love in whatever form it may take, we will see a world of evil, destruction, malice, envy, and despair. All this we must learn to forgive, not because we are being good and charitable, but because what we are seeing is not true. We have distorted the world by our twisted defenses and are therefore seeing what is not there. As we learn to recognize our perceptual errors, we also learn to look past them or forgive. At the same time we are forgiving ourselves, looking past our distorted self-concepts to the self that God created in us and as us. Sin is defined as a lack of love. That appears in the text in page 11. Since love is all there is, sin, in the sight of the Holy Spirit, is a mistake to be corrected, rather than an evil to be punished. Our sense of inadequacy, weakness, and incompletion comes from the strong investment in the scarcity principle that governs the whole world of illusions. From that point of view, we seek in others what we feel is wanting in ourselves. We love another in order to get something ourselves. That, in fact, is what passes for love in the dream world. There can be no greater mistake than that, for love is incapable of asking for anything. We'll leave the preface reading there for today because that's a page and a half, as promised. That's all I'm going to read before the lesson, and of the text the same. Let's move to lesson 4. And while I think of it, I'll quickly, I'm working on the audio to get that done properly, and we're just looking to improve things wherever we can as we go along. Okay, so if something's not right, you can always put it in the comments. If there's something you'd like to say or share, you're most welcome to add, come into the comments there, add a like, subscribe if you feel like this is helpful for you, or for someone that you know. Share it as well. Let's get the word out there, because people need these kinds of things right now more than ever, and actually have needed them way before now. But they're written for this time. So let's get them out there, guys. Okay, lesson 4. These thoughts do not mean anything. They are like the things I see in this room, on this street, from this window, in this place. Unlike the preceding ones, these exercises do not begin with the idea for the day. In these practice periods, begin with noting the thoughts that are crossing your mind for about a minute. Then apply the idea to them. If you are already aware of unhappy thoughts, use them as subjects for the idea. Do not, however, select only the thoughts that you think are bad. You will find, if you train yourself to look at your thoughts, that they represent such a mixture that, in a sense, none of them can be called good or bad. This is why they do not mean anything. In selecting the subjects for the application of today's idea, the usual specificity is required. Do not be afraid to use good thoughts as well as bad. None of them represents your real thoughts, which are being covered up by them. The good ones are but shadows of what lies beyond, and the shadows make sight difficult. The bad ones are blocks to sight and make seeing impossible. You do not want either. This is a major exercise and will be repeated from time to time in somewhat different form. The aim here is to train you in the first steps toward the goal of separating the meaningless from the meaningful. It is a first attempt in the long-ranged purpose of learning to see the meaningless as outside you and the meaningful within. It is also the beginning of training your mind to recognize what is the same and what is different. In using your thoughts for application of the idea for the day, I'll start that again. In using your thoughts for application of the idea for today, identify each thought by the central figure or event it contains. For example, this thought about Joe does not mean anything. It is like the things I see in this room, on this street, and so on. You can also use the idea for a particular thought that you recognize as harmful. This practice is useful, but is not a substitute for the more random procedures to be followed for the exercises. Do not, however, examine your mind for more than a minute or so. You are too inexperienced as yet to avoid a tendency to become pointlessly preoccupied. Further, since these exercises are the first of their kind, you may find the suspension of judgment in connection with thoughts particularly difficult. Do not repeat these exercises more than 3 or 4 times during the day. We will return to them later. Okay, so we're meant to do this part after we've done the lesson, and I'm not meant to repeat 2 lessons a day, so I'm trying to keep ahead. So today I've done lesson 3, but I'm recording lesson 4, so I'm not practicing this lesson myself until tomorrow. So I won't do the lesson yet. I'll just go straight into A Year of Forgiveness, Jesus Commentary for lesson 4. But we're meant to do this, read this after we've practiced the lesson for lesson 4. Okay? Lesson 4. These thoughts do not mean anything. They are like the things I see in this room, on this street, from this window, in this place. You are blessed beings. Indeed, I am that one you know as Jesus. I am pleased you have made it to day 4. This is no small feat when you consider the part of your mind you know as yourself has no interest in this process. You encounter an aspect of your mind that argues with what you, in your attempt at consciousness evolution, try to do. You hear a voice in your mind or have feelings of resentment or resistance to doing these lessons. It is very important at this stage, when you are a novice at this mind training business, that you understand the larger part of your consciousness has no interest in spiritual evolution or consciousness expansion. In fact, it absolutely resists it. Why is this so? Well, you have chosen to come into separation. You have chosen to come into this place so that's so proud. You have chosen to come into this place that so profoundly lacks love. Your body and your individual appearance demonstrate a physical demonstration, your conscious belief in individuality and separation. In fact, that individuality and separation, you have been further trained by your society to feed that part of you. So when asked to do things that go against your society's training, that well-fed, also loud and obnoxious at times, part of your mind, used to having things its way, will not be happy at all. It is just as people newly going to the gymnasium to improve their fitness. 3 or 4 days in, the muscles complain. The mind of the beings trying to improve their fitness realize that this is going to be a little more difficult than they thought. This is when it is really important to recall the decision you have made to do this year-long study, because you made this decision based on evidence that the way your mind works and the way you do things is not bringing you what you want. That has not changed on day 4, has it, dear ones? You have not suddenly started to live the life that you want. You still have the same evidence speaking to you that you had on the beginning of this journey. Do not back out now. Do not sabotage yourself by saying, "Oh, I can't do this. This is too much bother." Go back to the decision you made. There must be a better way than what I am doing. You must understand that your behavior comes from your feelings and thoughts, and your feelings and thoughts come from what you believe to be true about the world. If your beliefs about reality, the world, what you are, who you are, and why you are here are incorrect, then your behaviors will not serve you because they are based on untruth. On day 4, recalibrate yourself to align with that decision. I'm going to do the year-long practice of A Course in Miracles. I'm going to observe when my mind argues, because there is a part of my mind that's curious about what's going to happen and wants to continue to do these lessons. But there seems to be another part of my mind that is not happy about it. I'm going to step back from being deeply involved and engaged with both of those aspects. And I'm going to observe and say, I have made a decision, and I'm going to stick by that decision to do the lessons of A Course in Miracles, to see what happens, and to see whether there is a discernible and quantifiable transformation in my life. We are here with you. I am that one you know as Jesus, and I'm happy that you joined us today. We look forward to joining with you tomorrow, and we will speak to you again soon. Namaste, blessed beings.